Learn how to make a Christmas tree advent calendar. This sewing project takes a little more time, but it's so fun for kids to count the days down to Christmas while hanging each ornament up. Please like this video and follow my channel. Started with a yard of quilting cotton fabric. I cut off the selvage that had words on it, and then I folded the fabric in half from selvage to selvage, even though I just cut one selvage off. And then I cut it in half long ways. So I have two pieces of fabric that are about 22 inches wide and 36 inches tall. Then take the fabric that you are going to, that is going to be the Christmas tree, the green fabric, and iron some double-sided adhesive onto the back of your green fabric. And keep the paper backing on and draw out the shape of your Christmas tree. So my Christmas tree is about 20 inches or 24 inches tall, and it's about 18 inches wide. So I drew out just a big triangle. I wanted a really simple shape so it wouldn't detract from the design of the advent calendar. And I just made a tall, thin Christmas tree. Once you have the tree cut out, you can peel the paper backing off, and it should just peel off easily. And you can see that there's that double-sided adhesive still on my green tree. So I peel this off, and then I ironed it onto the center of one of my pieces of fabric that I already cut out. You want it to be closer to the top because you need room for the numbers at the bottom. And make sure you have seam allowance at the top. Then you are going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around the Christmas tree, the triangle shape. And I just did a regular wide zigzag. I actually just pushed the button on my machine that would choose a zigzag, and I didn't change that setting, so it's just my normal setting of a zigzag, and I went all the way around. So I didn't do a full like a satin stitch where everything is covered and finished within, but since I have that double-sided adhesive on the back of the tree, I'm not too worried about it fraying. Also, this is a project that probably will never be washed, so I'm not too worried about that, the edge of that fabric fraying too bad. You just want it to be secure and to look nice. So next, I wanted to actually use up some red scrap pieces of fabric to make my pockets at the bottom. So I sewed a bunch of red strips together to make that big rectangle on the bottom. And you are going to have 3 pockets along the bottom. You are going to pockets along the bottom, and each pocket is about 4 inches, so 2 inches on one side and 2 inches on the other side. So you need to add 12 inches to, so you measure the height of your square and then add 12 inches on the bottom, and that will create those pockets you need for the advent calendar to hold the ornaments. Once you have your fabric either ready or you have some pieces of fabric sewn together, you pin it onto your tree side of your fabric and fold the top edge under 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch so that that edge will be hidden and finished and it won't unravel. And then pin the raw edges on the sides and the raw edges on the bottom. So pin that all in, and you'll see your extra fabric in the middle, and then that's where you can move it around to adjust and find your where you want your pockets to go. I had a pocket right at the top, and then one in the middle and one near the bottom. Once it's all pinned on, then first thing you need to do is move the top pocket away, that top flap, and sew across the top so that you're securing that raw edge inside folded under. Just baste the sides to the fabric so that it is in place. I sewed about a 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and I pivot at the corner. When you're going on the sides, make sure that you are really, it is a basting stitch, but make sure you are catching all of those folds of those pockets to keep it in place for when you sew it in the end. Then you're going to mark 8 different lines, and you're going to sew those lines in place from the bottom up to the top and do a back stitch at the top. And this is how you're creating the sections for your pockets. You have 3 rows of pockets, but you need each row to have 8 pockets. So that will create 24 pockets total. One thing I didn't check while I was doing it is I evenly sewed my lines across, and then I forgot about the seam allowance on the edges. So my 6 pockets on each side are actually really skinny because I forgot to measure that. So when you are doing your lines, make sure that you leave your 1/2 inch seam allowance on each side so you don't get skinny pockets like I did. So I actually added a piece of ribbon to my thread because I thought it would break up the blocks of red better, and I actually like it. Looks kind of like presents with ribbons across it. And then you're going to take that same ribbon and you're going to sew 3 loops to the top to make sure that it can hang up when it's done. Then you need to take your backing fabric that you haven't used and place it right sides together on top of your tree and pin it together. You can interface either pieces of fabric if you want. I didn't, and I kind of wish I would have. You can also use fleece if you want that instead. Then I decided to cut all of my ornaments out of felt, and I used my Cricut Maker to cut out the ornaments. I did the same shapes out of every single color, and I used 6 different colors, which meant I had 4 ornaments of each color. And it was great to use the Cricut Maker to cut out all of those ornaments. It made it a lot quicker, but you can also do it by hand. I did simple shapes like ovals and circles and just kind of Christmas bauble shapes, so they would be pretty easy to cut out by hand. I cut out 2 layers of each so that I can sandwich the thread, the loop that hangs the ornament, between those 2 pieces of felt. And then peel off your felt and you can see all of your beautiful shapes. You can see I have a couple of extra shapes because I wanted to see how they would do with the felt, and I narrowed it down to 4 shapes of each color. I find the felt pretty easy to peel off of the fabric mat, and it usually doesn't distort it at all, but just be careful as you are peeling it off to make sure it's not ruining your felt at all. Then take an 8-inch piece of thread and tie a loop on one side, tie a knot on one side so that it creates a loop, and do 24 of these loops, and these will become the loops of the ornaments. I just used embroidery floss that I had. So sandwich 1 loop between the 2 layers of felt, the exact same shape, and then we're going to sew that so it keeps that loop in place. So my ornaments, I decided to sew just a regular straight stitch all the way around the ornament, and this keeps the 2 layers together, and I kind of like the contrast stitching. I think it makes it look more homemade, and I like that. And then I added a zigzag just at the top of the ornament where the loop is to make it really secure and make sure it would not be pulled out. You want that knot to stay in there. And do this to all of your ornaments so that you have lots of different colors, lots of different shapes, and it makes decorating the tree really fun. You need to sew your 2 pieces of fabric right sides together at 1/2 inch seam allowance and leave a 6-inch gap, back stitch on each side. Then clip your corners and turn it right side out. press all of your edges flat so they're nice and crisp, and then you're going to do a top stitch thread, a top stitch all the way around the edge to keep everything in place, and it actually is a great way to close your hole. You just top stitch your layers together and you don't have to go through and sew by hand. I sewed my buttons onto my tree, and I decided to sew them on with my sewing machine. It goes a little bit faster. It's not as strong as if you do it by hand. And so after I sewed these, I went through and I added clear nail polish to the top of the thread to keep it from coming undone. But I went through and I added 24 buttons to my tree, and I did it in a random order, random placement, and I didn't really measure. I just kind of threw them on there wherever I wanted it to be. I used iron-on vinyl for the numbers of my advent calendar, but you can use felt or fabric. You can draw it by hand. So do whatever you want for your 24 numbers, and then apply them to each pocket of your the pockets that you created. So 1 through 8 on the top row, 9 through 16 on the next row, and 17 to 24 on the bottom row. And I like iron-on vinyl because it's quick and easy and it looks really nice and professional. But you can do whatever kind of numbers that you want and what you like the look of. So I used my small Easy Press 2 to apply the iron-on vinyl, and it just makes it quick and easy, and I don't have problems with it peeling off later. And then you can put all of your ornaments in the pockets below and let your kids put 1 ornament on the tree a day. I might even just let them play with the tree and decorate it whenever they want, because it's a great Christmas activity and they can't really hurt this advent calendar. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see the advent calendars you make.